to call the Village of Midlothian special meeting for May 6th, 2015 to order. Roll call.
Trustee Gillis.
Here.
Trustee Killily. Trustee Kreis.
Here.
Trustee LaRue.
Here.
Trustee Moskal.
Here.
Trustee Schiavone.
Here.
Mayor Ryder.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Please stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Trustees, the next item on the agenda was the swearing in of our new trustee, Carl Ivan. Due to a scheduling conflict of who trustee Ivan wanted to swear in, he was unable to make it to tonight's meeting. So I'm asking that this be tabled until next week, where we'll actually do the swearing in of Carl Ivan and also of Ellen and Don for being re-elected. So if I could get a table at this time.
I'll make a motion to table.
I'll second. Roll call.
Trustee LaRue.
Aye.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Trustee Gillis.
Aye.
Trustee Killily. Trustee Moskal.
Aye.
Trustee Schiavone.
Aye.
At this time, I'll open the floor to public comment if anyone would like to address the board.
Valerie Weiskirk, Midlothian, Illinois. Two topics that happen to be on the agenda. And the first one is directed at you, Mayor Ryback.
Okay.
The act of swearing in Carl Ivan today versus next Wednesday with the other trustees doesn't seem to be of an accountability that Carl somehow failed something all of a sudden, and that because of this special person, which he not only had a right to choose, the law pretty much does state regular board meeting, and arguably you've been very busy labeling a whole bunch of committee meetings, special meetings, and I'm even confused if you're trying to make a point. That was similar to what Attorney Gleason did say, in which it's easier to add meetings rather than subtract meetings. And quite frankly, I feel really uncomfortable with how this happened, because I feel like it was a slap in the face in Trustee Schiavone's legacy. Like it or hate it, there's far less on record of him misstepping than with you. And for tonight, it to be some scheduling conflict on Carl Ivan's part, very, very once again misplaced, and I'm very disappointed. The other thing would be this Protect My Town petition drive that's on the agenda. I guess I'm gonna borrow the theme of it. And that if the theme is that this village can cooperate with other villages and come together and accomplish some sort of an agenda, I would like to hope that the people of this village can be the leaders in getting the forest preserves on board when it comes to flooding. And that if we're going to participate in this Protect My Town to save over $800,000, in tax money that we need, perhaps we can also consider being those leaders and that voice calling the forest preserves to the table, as well as Oak Forest, when it comes to flooding, rather than all the volunteers that have been busy doing it. So I hope you will consider adding your voice that strongly to the topic of flooding with the forest preserves and Oak Forest, the same way you're doing this Protect My Town petition, which seems really cool. Not the taking away the money, cool, the standing against it.
Thank you, Valerie. Anybody else like to address the board?
I just want to give a couple updates. So last Friday, I was with Trustee Kreis at the CSEDC Spring Quarterly Forum in Orland Park. A few months before that, Julia Plum from Highbridge had requested some of my flood files, and she used that. She did a presentation on flooding in the south suburban Cook County area. Midlothian is one of their pilot years projects, I guess in what they call it, the Midlothian Triangle. We're receiving one of the rain gardens. The thing I thought was interesting is of all the villages that they discussed there, they called us high profile, so that's another plus, so we can't get swept under the carpet. I received notice last Saturday that we were nominated for an award, and we're going to be honored at an event in June in Oak Brook. And then today we met with CNT to discuss the rain ready alert system. We spent, close to 3 hours with them, so that's all I have to report.
Congratulations on being nominated and getting the award, by the way.
Thanks.
Is there anybody else who'd like to address the board? If not, I'll close the floor to public comment. And we have trustee Rice.
Okay, I have the right-way auto expansion. In your board packets, I have information forwarded, but it didn't all get forwarded there. I do have samples that I brought. Maybe I didn't. Well, I have them, so anybody wants to look at them. Buildings that they have everywhere. And I've been going back and forth with Mr. Steve Duggan, their developer, about the Class 8 and the sales tax sharing. And I think there was some confusion on his part, because I gave him a whole print all the tax bills. And the taxes jumped from 2010 to 2011. So I explained to him the referendum that the residents voted for, and I think that was a one-time anomaly, and that his tax, that I don't think they can anticipate their taxes, the property taxes doubling every 3 years. So his latest request is they want to start construction this summer. They want approval of the Class 8, which I told him needs to be tied to a redevelopment agreement, and he wants a sample redevelopment agreement. To which I told him, we don't have a sample redevelopment agreement, they're all unique based on the particular user. So my question to the board is, should we instruct Mr. Gleason to draft a redevelopment agreement, or should I just white out one of the redevelopment agreements, white out the name for maybe one that we had for 147 cars? That one had Class 8, correct?
No.
Yep. And what's your pleasure? Because he keeps coming back to me, and I want to move it to the next step.
It included tank removal stuff in the RDA, so I know that.
Yeah, that one might not be too.
You know, I would actually feel more comfortable with having Attorney Gleason just draft one, just because then we can make sure we get, just like we're doing with the Cicero Avenue properties,
Okay.
and making sure we're capturing
Okay.
everything we want in all the redevelopments.
Okay, and they may, once they see the redevelopment agreement, they're probably going to come back with more requests. So if you don't have a problem, I don't think it'll cost a ton of money, because he's done so many of these for other car dealers, that he's got most of the language down, but they definitely want a Class 8. Nobody's opposed to the Class 8, correct?
I'm not opposed to if they're adding a building.
Pardon me?
I'm not opposed to if they're adding a building.
No, they're gonna put
But
up-
I think to know if they're gonna take the trailer out, or.
Well, we have to have all that in the redevelopment agreement,
Right.
Gary.
So we should make it specialized to their needs.
Okay, so I will ask Attorney Gleason to draft the RDA, and hopefully we can move that project along. The village vehicle and equipment policy is not finalized yet. I apologize, trustee Schiavone, that I didn't get you a copy because I didn't see your name on here, and I didn't know you were going to be here this evening. I did get it to the other board members. There are numerous comments. I think we're getting close.
Could I get a copy of it?
Oh, yep, we're not done yet.
Okay.
I'll give it to you when it's, the draft is
Oh,
done.
okay.
I received some additional comments from trustee Gillis this morning, and you had some suggestions, adding some forms, and you were gonna do some more investigative work. So it's really a collaboration of everybody's comments, but I will definitely get it to you once I think the board thinks it's in final draft form. Okay? Calumet Stormwater Collaborative, I was there, Helen, we were 2 weeks ago Friday, we were at Chicago Southland
2
Economic
weeks already.
Development Corporation. On Friday, I went down to the Metropolitan Planning Council and represented Midlothian at the Calumet Stormwater Collaborative, and Superintendent Sperry was there as well, and I introduced him to a number of our partners at CNT and to Lisa Cotner from the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. It was a good meeting. Again, we need to be at the table. I had gotten an email from Burrell after that, from Burrell Hall at CNT, that said, thanks for being at the table. Rain Ready update. you did your rain ready alert today, and I could not be with you because I had another engagement. But what did I put on here, May 1st? What did we do on May 1st? Oh, no, that was for this Calumet Stormwater Collaborative. For Rain Ready, I'm getting on so many meetings I can't keep them straight. And I've also been informed by Molly Ocean, who's our Rain Ready manager at CNT, that we should be receiving their interim Rain Ready report this week. I also I need to read this because I think it's important. I think you're underestimating the award and you kind of stole my thunder. But on Saturday, I received this from Harriet Festing, Director of the Water Program at Center for Neighborhood Technology. Dear Helen, inspired by your leadership, CNT nominated you to be honored as an inspiring woman. See below. I just heard that your work, very much supported by the fabulous steering committee and the huge number of people who support and engage in the work of Midlothian Midlothian, will be honored on June 10th. Midlothian has given a much-needed voice to people across the country affected by flooding. You have inspired flood victim groups and other communities to come together to discuss potential solutions and advocate for action. Mary Carvin from Blue Island and Dana Dauphin from Glenview are two such examples and are also copied in. And you have helped raise awareness of the growing social, economic, and environmental risks to communities of urban flooding and the need for urgent and sustainable solutions. Congratulations to you, Midlothian and your network of equally inspiring supporters and flood victim advocates. It is well deserved. Diane Middlebrooks will follow up with you directly to tell you more. And this is the award is from it's the Celebrating Inspiring Women in the 15th Anniversary of the Women's Initiative. This is from Diane Middlebrooks at Itasca Bank. Dear Harriet, I want to let you know that Helen Lekovich will be one of those honored as an inspiring young woman on the evening of June 10th at our Celebrating Inspiring Women and the 15th Anniversary of the Women's Initiative. I thought you might want to tell Helen, since you nominated her, and you also might want to tell her what you said about her. You are invited to attend this event. So again, you're going to be honored at Drury Lane, Oak Brook on June 10th, and congratulations. You did us proud.
One step closer to discussing it with the president. That's the way I
Of
look
the
at it.
United States.
One step closer.
And again, thanks to Harriet, who just keeps championing Midlothian at every turn, and Molly, and Burrell, and all of them. Enterprise zone application, I just want the board to know we did get an update from the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. And it just says DCEO received 66 applications from communities across the state for new enterprise zones in 2016. The department is scoring the applications submitted for the final round of review, after which the enterprise board will approve or deny applications. DCEO must submit scored applications to the board by June 30th, 2015. New zones will go into effect January 1st, 2016. Under state law, the board may approve up to 49 enterprise zones in 2015. The remainder of the state's 97 available enterprise zones will be designated in 2016 through 2020. So just to let you know, there's scoring, and let's keep our fingers crossed that it gets approved, because it would be a big boost for economic development. RTA call for projects. And this was handed out. I knew about this because I got numerous emails, but this was handed out as well to the Calumet Stormwater Collaborative. The RTA, Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, and communities putting prevention to work, which was the initiative through Cook County for our model community grant. They have a call for projects. I'm happy to let everyone know that Mary DeBacher from Center for Neighborhood Technology is writing for CMAP's Local Technical Assistance Program, which is part of this. She's writing an application for a feasibility study and plan specifications for 147th Street. We talked about with Rain Ready putting in some demonstrative projects with bioswales and native planting, so she's working on that. I am going to start working on, for the Healthy Hotspot, a request for funding for a complete streets program, which the village doesn't have. It has been recommended by Period. And again, that will open up, if we have a complete streets program and that gets approved, that will open up other opportunities for other funding. And Leslie Feimster from the Active Transportation Alliance actually gave me a heads up about this and said she'd be happy to assist me on writing the grant application. So that application is not actually even going to be available until May 15th. So in the grant world, that's what's occurring. Let's see, what else do I have? Oh, and I believe our employment application, and I'm not an HR person, but I believe it needs to be modified because there's a law called Ban the Box that went into effect January 1st in the state of Illinois, and we are not compliant. So I guess, Mayor, my question is, who would be responsible for doing that, and who would be responsible here? Who's our designated HR person that would be responsible for making these kind of changes and notifying us when the changes need to be made, so that we're in compliance when there's a change in law?
You know what, we really don't have a designated HR person on site. I usually do most of the HR work. I did not review that, and, but I can have, I'll have the attorney look at it, make sure.
Yeah.
It's a very lengthy application as well.
Yeah, it probably needs to be revised, but just so that we are legally in compliance.
Right.
This law went into effect January 1st.
Okay.
And ban the box needs to go up.
Ban the box means that you can't, it says here, it restricts employers' ability to inquire about a job applicant's criminal background. And I can give you this, want all the information?
There has to be specifications on that. It
Is
can't be
it-
a blank, it just can't be a blank across the board.
But I think we have to change our application to comply with the ban the box law that went into effect.
I don't exactly know exactly what that means, ban the box law, because there are jobs in this village that require a criminal background check.
Oh, absolutely, but it's the way it's on our application. I believe
So
we're
it's
not
not doing
compliant.
it, it's just how we do it.
Correct. I think the application needs to be changed.
Okay.
So, until I make sure
I'll
that-
review the
Okay,
application.
thank you. And, oh, my other question, is anybody going to the listening tour tomorrow? Okay,
Or we have,
okay. I will try to go. They had asked, all the emails we got, they had asked that somebody be there. I know I talked to, I had some questions about the projects that was.
Sounds like the 17th, not the 7th. Did I read that wrong?
It's tomorrow. It's tomorrow. Okay, I'll try to go. It says something. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Shivoni, you're not on the agenda, but. if
I
you'd
will
like-
defer to trustee Gillis.
Okay.
I want to let the board know that the fire department had to have 2712 taken in for repairs. This was sort of an emergency thing. Basically, had three things wrong with it. One was a bad oil leak that basically was a high pressure pump rail that went bad. The repairs have to be done by an international repair dealer. Chief Wagner has found one, and the unit has been brought there. We have not gotten an estimate of what it's going to cost to get it done, but while they're there, we're also going to have a couple other minor things done that are extra requirements. One, the AC isn't working. For our state inspection, we have to have AC for patient transportation, so we're going to need that fixed while it's there too. Another one was just a bent pulley. We had it under a hood. We're going to get that looked at too. So I'll let the board know that. So we'll have an estimate, and hopefully we can get that done so we can get it back in service.
Which one was 2712? It was the box, right?
That's the Manhattan one, the new one.
Right, the new one from Manhattan.
Yeah, that high pressure pump is under like was it 2,000
$2,000
PSI?
pressure.
So it's not something to mess around with. I've been told by the chief, and I'm sure the mayor may have received this too, that IDOL has abated our citations from the December fire. We have completed all of the risk management required training that was requested, so that is done and abated.
I haven't received a letter yet, though.
Okay. The chief also has received a letter from a resident for the excellent care and treatment of our EMS staff, particularly paramedics Steve Badger and Demetrius Nolan. So I want to thank those two individuals for their expertise for our residents. I also received a letter from part-time firefighter paramedic, Justin Heston. He is leaving the department, his part-time position, to take a full-time position in a neighboring department. So we wish him well, and we hope he's coming back. We also received information from Ingles Emergency System Services that 2 of our members received certificates of appreciation for their years of service as paramedics. One was Chief Wagner, which was 25 years.
Yeah.
25 years as a medic, that's a long time. Another one was Steve Badger, who has been a medic for 5 years. So congratulations for those 2 days. And with that, I just want to let the board know that EMS Week honoring all paramedics is the week of May 17th through the 23rd. So hopefully we'll have something to post out on the front for that.
I plan on doing a proclamation next week at the board meeting for both EMS and also it's Public Works Week that week as well. So they have to share the week, so we'll have to split the sign.
If anybody has noticed or is curious about NICOR working in Crawford, or what people call Pulaski, they will be out there working on it, replacing a 20-inch main throughout the whole town. So I believe that's going to be happening if it hasn't started already. Speaking with Superintendent Sperry, there was a discussion at a meeting we had this week regarding any road program repairs that we may be looking to do using the motor fuel tax. Is that something that is in our plans this year?
He is supposed to actually be getting the proposal to me on what he wants to address.
Okay.
But he's asked our accountant Ryan for the available monies, because we're also waiting for the approval of the low budget street servicing. So, yeah, we're working on
Well,
it.
he is putting together a list of roads that are in repair
Right.
based on,
Funding available.
yes.
Right.
We did have a couple things that came up yesterday that I didn't have time to get a hold of everybody to let them know, but we do have a couple of emergencies that have popped up that need immediate attention. One of them is the welds on the grade on Pulaski. When we use our equipment to remove the debris there, in the past, when those welds break, which they do quite often because of the bucket and equipment that they use, we had someone on the staff that would weld that being Al Minor is retired. We presently do not have anybody on staff to do that work, but we need to get it done lickety split because we are getting rain in the forecast next week. I directed Superintendent Sperry to get an estimate of what it would cost to get it done. And he did receive one from Great Lakes Mechanical Services out of Crete. It is $1,952.90 to have that work done. I know this is something that wasn't on the agenda, but I think it is an emergency that we need to address sooner than later. It's not just a well that's getting down in there, getting the equipment over, and it's not something that can be done by anybody. That's why he was having a hard time finding somebody to do it, because he never had been in that position before. So I guess I'm asking for Joe to have the authority to get this work done as soon as he can get the company out there.
Trustees, how do we feel on this?
This is for something for the village, there's a concern of safety and everything?
They cannot remove the debris in creek without the grate being welded back on.
I
Yeah.
feel we have a
Speaks for
choice.
itself.
Yeah, we have to do it.
I just wanted to make sure everybody was on board. The other thing isn't as a dire need, but the large water tank was inspected recently, and Joe got the report back from the inspector, and it's not the best news in the world. There are some things that need to be addressed. He's working on getting a quote, what it would cost, but some of these things are things that should be addressed real soon. A lot of it has to do with just some tag welding, but again, up in the air, it's not something we have the capability of doing. Fixing a vent and the ladder to go up, it needs to be addressed too. So he's working on getting that information. As soon as we do have it, I'm going to have him forward to you, Mayor, and then let the board know and address it as we see fit. I also wanted to let the board know that Superintendent Sperry has spoke to Assistant Superintendent Ty Swenson, and he is looking into sending him to a certified stormwater inspector training. He found out that there's one being held in Chicago on June 1st and 2nd. He's going to get the particulars on it, but he would like to send him to this so that we do have at least one person that holds that certification. So they're moving on that. I believe that's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Jerry, just one point. I trust I leave this in your hands, and I'm sure you'll do a great job with it. I know that Metra has started, I've seen Metra has started a number of projects with the railroad tracks around the south suburbs. Now, the new target date is July 1st for the village of Midlothian,
No, June 11th.
June 11th,
June 11th,
start date.
start
Well,
date.
I hope.
And they changed spots.
And they're going to switch spots.
I wasn't going to share that until I had that piece.
And actually, they were out there doing something because we had this all last year. Now, I got promised that it is June 11th. They're going to start on the Pulaski, or I'm sorry, 147 because it's the worst, and then come to Pulaski. And actually, to tie that in with NICOR, they were unaware that we were even doing the tracks, and they're going to go right through the tracks. So we're trying to coordinate. Joe and myself have a meeting next week with NICOR to try to coordinate, because I don't want Metra to fix the tracks and then you have NICOR tear it all up. So if they can work in conjunction with each other, that would be a much better fix. So I'll know a little bit more after next Tuesday's meeting.
Okay, and that's what, I was waiting for that before I indulged in sharing that with anybody, so yes,
Keep
they're
that
playing
secret.
on, the secret's out. They're planning on working on 147, it's gonna take 7 days, and then you'll move to Pulaski, and that should take 10 days.
But they won't, they promised that they would not start the second before the first was totally completed, because we can't have that kind of bog down in the village.
Well, the only reason I mention this is because I've seen in a number of southwest suburbs, the signs that have been gone up that construction on railroad tracks is beginning on June this and May that and whatever else. And I say, where's our signs at?
They're coming, they sent us the maps for traffic detours and everything else, so it was a secret, now the secret's out, so.
What work's gonna be going on in Crawford, are you talking about, and when is that gonna start? And how much is it gonna take out of Crawford?
The
For blasting?
NICOR,
The NICOR stuff is going to start at Dollar Tree, go past the tracks down to the Willow Crest condos, and then further down there, looks like, from what I'm hearing, this is the one I got a meeting on next Tuesday, so I get definite plans. They got to put in a new 20-inch main, so it'll tear up the road and everything, but it starts by Dollar Tree and goes south to the tracks, through the tracks, past Willow Crest, and then the next phase after that will be from Willow Crest down to 153rd Street.
At the same time as the tracks are being done?
We're trying to coordinate it so,
we don't have one tearing up what the other already did.
Or did you in each other's way?
Right.
absolutely, right. So but NICOR, we found out today, wasn't even aware that Metro was doing the tracks. So one entity doesn't talk to the other.
Now they know.
Now they know,
Okay.
so that's why we're meeting. So
I saw markings down here by the post office stuff on the sidewalk, I thought that was part of the project. They were, because Joe was up to doing some markings, so.
Yeah, no, I was told it starts at Dollar Tree and goes down, so,
So it's coordinated.
yeah, we're working on it. Okay? Okay, trustee LaRue.
Yes, ma'am. I just want to make a quick comment about the EMS week, when you said it was.
May 17th to the 23rd.
I really think, I just don't, how to put this, as much grief as our police and fire get, mostly police because they write the tickets, they just don't get enough kudos. And specifically referring to an incident that happened last Friday in Waverly, it is god awful. And yes, this is small town Midlothian, but they still have to see things that I don't want to see, and no one else out there wants to see. So the things you have to put up with and do is.
And unfortunately, it wasn't just that incident alone that has affected our department. They had a couple of full arrests. One was a young father where his daughter was in the home with him. They had a bad accident, and all this was combined in a very short time. So just to piggyback on that, it is something that when it happens, it doesn't go away. These guys will remember it for us to go away. So it is something that we should be aware of and not take for granted sometimes too.
Right. Please thank a policeman or a fireman every chance you get. That's fine. You have the cell door on your agenda, so we'll talk about that in a minute. Chief Kaufman has made us aware that he had to let go a probationary officer this week. So he's asking the board to expedite the hiring of one of our part-time officers. So he's going to be asking for a ordinance hire of Ken Hopkins. So we're, the attorney is working on the ordinance, I believe. Just letting the board know that that should come up for vote next week.
I plan on getting on it, I'll write it for you.
It's a good way for us to continue to save on overtime, so it makes sense for the village. What else? I gave everyone a packet on their desk about this module from Civic Plus. It's called Civic Send. It is a communication tool that Civic Plus offers. Communication to the residents about anything going on in the village. So included is a diagram of what Civic Send has above what we have now, which is pretty much everything. Nicole was able to get rid of some modules that we don't use, that we were paying for. So on the front page it says the price for the Civic Send is $19.90 a year, but they're running a special $995 a year. With some more talk with them, they have offered to give it to us free until the end of this calendar year. So I would like, I guess, the approval to move forward this and try it out to the end of the year. We don't have to sign anything or do anything. It's just a module that Civic Plus puts on to our website that we can use. It can be monthly, it can be weekly, it can be every 2 weeks, whatever we feel is best it works out best for us, we can work on that. So it can be a work in progress, and if we don't like it, we just don't do it at the beginning of the year, we don't sign a contract. You see, here's a copy of both for us, debriefs, pretty much what it would be like. There's links to other towns that have it, so if you guys want to take a week and look through it, look at the other towns and what they do. But it's you have to opt in, you have to sign up for it. So if we get the message out, we get residents to sign up for it. In lieu of not having a target tidings, this is a good way to get information out to every resident that wants the information. So,
And free is always good.
and free is good. No need to sign a contract until the beginning of the year. If we don't like it at that point, we can just take it back out. And we are participating in the Cop on Top again this year. It's May 29th at our local Dunkin' Donuts. More information for that will be coming. That's for the Special Olympics, Illinois Special Olympics.
Yeah.
And what else do I have? Community Policing Committee will be meeting tomorrow to finalize the golf outing, which is this Saturday. Hopefully the rain holds off, and I expect it to be a good outing, so that's all I have.
Thank you. Trustee Kilroy, just in time.
Just in time. Okay, let's see if I can remember. It's unusual. CRS updates. I don't know what's been talked about already, but basically, you know, we expect to have a community assistance visit at the end of May or the beginning of June. And basically, we're going to need Jeff Koza pretty much to be there for the full-time, we think, for the full-time that the FEMA representative is there, because the FEMA representative is going to be talking a lot about flooding issues, and we think we would need Jeff there, as well as probably Public Works, and maybe, you know, a trustee or the mayor or whatever would show up. So I would, you know, for the next meeting, I would ask that we get Jeff's time approved. That would be 8 hours at $125 an hour. Also, we're going to need Nicole Faber, because a lot of what FEMA representative is going to do is try to verify that we are following our own ordinances. When we joined the National Floodplain Insurance Plan in 2008, we passed a lot of ordinances so that we would comply with the National Flood Insurance Plan, and they're going to want to know how we're doing with that. And one of the ways they do it is to look at permits, as far as, you know, if somebody's building something new. I don't know about any reconditioning or remodeling or anything like that, but they will be looking at permits we have since 2008 from the building department to try to verify that we are following our own ordinances. And Nicole's the person, I think, that would best know where they are. So I think the mayor's already authorized that. Did we talk about probable flood properties yet?
No.
Okay, well, from what little I know, MWRD is having a grant program apparently that it's not as stringent as the rules for FEMA, which we didn't make, that some of the properties that are repeat flooders may, MWRD has a program that if we qualify and they approve it, then we would get money to buy the houses. Is that right, Helen? Basically is what I'm saying? Fine. So, you know, FEMA was very stringent. If your house didn't flood on the first level, you were out. And so, you know, a lot of our houses didn't qualify, but this is much better. And actually, some of the houses at 149th and Kilpatrick, maybe some of the houses and the properties that are abandoned, maybe if we can acquire some of those, we can actually do some flood control and property acquisition at the same time. So I don't know where we are with that. I understand we want to move forward with that. Is that right here?
Yeah, I'm trying to conglomerate. I asked Jeff to give his input, because he's been working so close and hand in hand with MWRD, is to pick out which houses, because you can qualify them, you know, not qualify them, and I believe the application is due May 22nd, so he was getting the information gathered for me. Actually, I was going to call Helen, because I figured if anybody knew which houses would probably be best suited, because they talk about floodplain and floodway, like they're two separates, and so you have to list which ones are in which categories. So I was actually going to give you a call and talk to you and get your input for any of that information.
And we have the old application from, was it 2013?
Yeah.
We said
I
on
think
file.
there were 9, Joe should have that, because Rick did that
There was
application.
9 of
There
us.
were 9 properties submitted, and that was the FEMA application.
Right.
So Joe should have that.
He was looking for it, he wasn't having any luck.
I have
Okay.
it.
Ellen has it.
Do you have?
I think I have it too.
Okay.
Okay, well, we definitely need that, because that's the best place to start, right? Those are the rock solid properties we would start with, right?
We would have to try and make sure those people are still willing to go. Always after a fresh flood, they would take it and run, but
Okay, yeah.
we have to revisit them to make sure they all want to be on the application.
Okay.
Did it include the ones at 149th Kilpatrick?
No.
No, it was when we were trying to get 1.5 million
Right.
to tear out the 9 houses that take it, the worst blow on the block.
And actually, I don't think your house was not on there.
Yes, it is.
It is?
Houses, yeah.
No, you said prop.
Well, there is, you know, there is some abandoned, it just seems to me there is some
There's a vacant.
vacant
property.
properties, and I don't know how that goes into it, but it's somehow, you know, a lot of times, first of all, for community rating system, we're gonna get credit, probably, for extra
Right.
points for that. One, number two is that I'm just wondering if there were properties that were acquired, maybe somehow could we come up with a flood mitigation plan that might stop some of the flooding down the creek somehow, you know, because,
Well, that was Jeff's recommendation when I asked him about it. He said that, you know, going toward the Kilpatrick, 149th and Kilpatrick, they're vacated houses basically over there. And he goes, they're old, they're torn, you know, they're falling down, they're really, you know, dilapidated. And he goes, if they could get that, maybe MWRD could put in a retention pond there
right.
and like stop the water further up creek.
I just know that one vacant property in the corner, the guy tried to make a home and he had to stop and it got
Right,
demolished.
right.
Right.
I just know the one property.
There's just one.
Okay.
I've given them the addresses that made sense in the beginning, which one's Oak Forest at 151st and Cicero. Then trustee Maskell is aware of the more than 2 acres that is right along next to that. We should make them aware of that if that has potential. Then you go to 149th Kilpatrick where the house was eventually torn down. Then you come 1 block over on Kenton. There's the property there, the creek runs through it, which is for sale. I gave them all 3. Unfortunately, there was another home that's a repeated flood home on the south side of 149th there, and somebody is now living in it. It was flipped, facelift, and now I believe there's a renter.
For anything what?
Does anybody know the corner that the Chileans live on? What is that block?
Which corner?
The Chileans live on the corner?
Oh, that's Kent.
That's Kent.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
The
it would
flip house
be,
on the southwest corner?
Yes.
On 49?
Yes.
Was that a flooding house?
yes, it was, oh yes. To the point where the whole inside of the house is on an angle. You can roll things,
Somebody just spent a lot of money redoing that whole house.
yeah.
Wow.
And you will see the hose coming out of it when it rains. There's a hose literally that comes right out of the house on 149th Street.
And how about some of those properties on Homer? There's some vacant properties on Homer as well, right?
Not right now. 7 of those were foreclosed. And there's 7 people who bought those houses who
Okay.
don't know. Yeah.
On Homer? On Homer?
7, yeah, where we did the cleanup, 7 of those were in foreclosure that flood, 7 of them. And that's why people buy them, because they're a real steal when they're for sale.
Well,
So I'll work with Helen and Jeff and Joe and try to come up with a recommendation of what houses we should look at for acquisition.
Well, a lot of what we talked about today with the Rain Ready people was getting a grip on it before it gets here. I mean, that's only logical. But what I did learn in the hazard mitigation meetings was when something has such a history, they actually don't think it's fixable. So they believe that eliminating huge historical problems is really the way to go. So I think we need to weigh that out.
they don't think what is fixable.
In other words,
The
the
flooding problem
history,
isn't
the
fixable?
history on my block, because the block is now so sunk,
Yeah.
that the potential of ever correcting it completely is probably never going to happen according to what they say, FEMA and Tetra Tech, the project planners. So that's something we need to weigh out.
Okay, I know, CRS, obviously, we're learning a lot through that, so if you need any information there, I think we have some help on that too, possibly.
And the MWRD buyouts, as I understand it, once that buyout takes place, the law is nothing will ever stand there again, which is a good point.
They're talking about to fix Natalie Creek is to put retention ponds down the stream, right? Isn't that what they were talking about?
There's
Have
not a-
already
there's
sort of
not
saying
a-
about that?
There's not one fix, it's multiple
Right.
projects.
So I mean, maybe
That's one component.
one component of it, so maybe there's, like we say, retention pond.
Right.
Some of them were actually multi-use locations, right? They were.
They were
some of
looking
them
at
had
like pocket
or like
parks
pocket parks, and that
and,
was the
yeah.
term I was thinking.
Mhm. They would serve a
Another
recreation and a beautification project as well as have the capacity to accommodate
So,
detention. It wouldn't just be a hole that looked ugly and waiting for some water.
And we've talked about incorporating gray and green infrastructure in those projects.
Right.
Hopefully the funding will be available.
Wasn't one of the benefits, if I heard correctly, that meaning that in doing a project like that, you have the ability to get funding from several different agencies? Like
Right.
one may be able to provide funds for a bike path through, and MWRD might be able
Right.
to provide some money for property
Right.
acquisition.
Do we ever talk, really the time I missed, is we ever talk about that FEMA has training available for Public Works Department free of charge? Kathy Cavaney talked to the representative from FEMA, and she was told that the Public Works Department, the chief and the deputy, could go to Washington, I believe it is.
Virginia?
Virginia, and to get the FEMA training free of charge, and including the housing and everything else.
And transportation.
Pardon me?
I
And
believe they-
transportation,
yeah, they
everything,
transport you,
everything.
feed
Especially
you,
now
teach you.
that we're involved in CRS, they're, basically, we're on the list now, so it seems like if that's a possibility, which I think it is, when the representative is here from the community assistance visit, we can sort of double check on that. I would put that on our list, because I think that would be a great thing.
And you know what? This is, I hope it's a good thing. I don't know if you, some of you may recall, the person who's coming to do that visit, as I understand it, is somebody who's been here before, Brian Eber,
Okay.
and we like him very much. So I think that's a plus, that he has already been here, that he's already taken an interest.
Right. Well, again, their interest is compliance, they're not ready to.
Well, he was here at our big stormwater meeting with
Oh.
Representative Davis, so he was here to hear
Okay.
quite a bit, which I think is a plus for us. And he walked the entire neighborhood the morning of. He was here for hours.
Next is Jawa, which isn't quite as positive. Never is. Jawa is, we're trying to figure out what Jawa was doing, and I talked to Attorney Gleason to see what the end game of Jawa is. But for right now, what we need to pay attention to is that Jawa is basically refinancing their bonds. Our bonds that we originally had with Jawa were 1% interest. They never expected, basically they were capitalized, so they never expected us to have to pay it. They thought they would be rolled into the project after 2 years. So that's why all this stuff is happening, because PNC apparently never figured that this would happen. They issued a letter of credit, and they of course, we issued the bank bonds, but they never even expected we were going to have to levy for them. They thought it was going to be all rolled into the Jawa project. Well, that didn't happen. PNC issued, it was like a letter of credit, and they were backed by the bonds, as I understand it, while PNC pulled the letter of credit. So PNC yesterday refinanced and issued bonds, and they basically repossessed the money from Jawa and paid off used that money to pay off the outstanding bonds as much as it could. We have right now, according to them, we have $194,000 worth of outstanding bonds after the payoff. We started at $330,000. Of course, we've made 2 payments also. There's some bad parts about this, many bad parts actually. They're going to ask for, we usually had a 10-year bond, and of course, we were actually paying at 10% interest, which I guess was a safety valve at some point, and eventually we were just going to not have to pay anything the last couple of years, I guess, what they figured. But it's going to be, as it turns out, it's going to be 9.5% interest. It's going to be for 3 years, And basically, if you want to try to get refinanced, you go to someone who will refinance you. I did some quick homework, and basically, if we got, I used to figure 5%, because I thought that was reasonable at this market. And if we did, we would be paying over 3 years approximately $14,000 extra over a 5% interest rate. And that equates to roughly $3 per home, I think. So I don't know if it's really worth going out and trying to finance. It's not going to save people that much money. I think the other thing that disturbed me, that we're paying more interest and we're doing this and we're doing that, is that we paid PNC's lawyer and the consulting company $300,000 for nothing. So the village attorney from Calumet Park sent them a nice letter today and said, "Why did you do that? Under what law could you? We didn't default. We didn't miss a payment. How do we have to pay $300,000 to you guys? For what? I would never approve that." So I think there might be, we're going to try to get our some money back from them. Also, the lawyer from Calumet Park asked if there was any money in the trustee account at Amalgamated Bank and the debt service account. And there very well may be, because usually, from what I understand, we're paying a year ahead. So they didn't account for that at all. So he's not happy, and I think I sent that to our attorney, Mr. Gleason, who's going to talk to Mr. Kinkar and go from there and see if we can get some more money out of it. The end date for May 16th, basically, JAWA will have no funds at all. The end game is to try to dissolve JAWA or get out of JAWA without any further liability or potential liability, and also to resolve the lawsuit that's going on between the former engineer and JAWA. He seems to think that's a very good possibility. I'm hoping that if everything goes right, that we can get out of this JAWA thing by the end of the month. There's nothing for anybody to get anymore. The money will be gone. The possibility of going forward will be gone. This will be the end of the day. Any questions?
How do we get out of the bonds?
We are going to pay $194,000 worth of bonds, minus if there's something in the debt service account, yes. But we are going to have to pay those bonds out over 3 years, not 10. And, while the payments are going to be the same, basically, because we were paying on it based on 10% interest, the net effect is that we're going to be paying much more interest at 9.5%, basically. So we're not getting out of anything. We are, we're going to have to levy that over a 3-year period, unless we can find someone that wants to refinance it. And again, it's not that much money per person, so I don't know if it's really worth doing. Even though it's aggravated, it's not worth the time and effort to do it. That's all.
Thank you. Trustee Mosco?
Yes, I have a handful of updates. First, the 2015-2016 budget. I had some exchanges with Mr. Command this past 2 weeks about the status. I understand that he has sent some documents out to the department heads for their review and input, and he has asked for those to be back on May 15th. I did not ask him how long he thinks it will take to collate those numbers, but I expect a few days after that we'll have something that the Finance Committee can take a look at. Likely we'll have some questions and want to go back, but that's moving along. And obviously, given the timing, since we're already in the fiscal year, we want to wrap it up as soon as we can. So hopefully I will have more on that next week to share. Along those same lines, I think as everyone here knows, I've been asking about reporting for quite some time. I sent him an example of what we might like to see going out, and he has assured me that we will have it in June with May numbers in it. So that's an FYI and something to look towards. I continue to get a lot of questions about the status of water collections. The last week of April, the last 10 days of April, we had 28 shutoffs, and since that time, we've had 9, I think, through yesterday, at least on the list through yesterday. Of the 9, I believe 5 have already come in and paid their bill, or have set up an automatic payment plan on the website. I had spent the week before a few hours talking with the water clerk and I understand that she and Robin have worked out a system for following up based on sections of the village, and a calendar, timing, etc. Robin will be responsible specifically for following up on the collection, so hopefully that will help keep the process moving along. But as I was going through that, I had sent Attorney Gleason an email the week before last about one particular situation we have with a commercial property with multiple tenants and an outstanding water bill that is in the $6,000 range. And I wanted to know what we needed to do in order to shut that off. I know if we shut water off, there's no longer occupancy, and then we have businesses who are not responsible for paying the water, who will basically be out of a place to work and do business. So it was an interesting exchange. I'm glad I sent him that email because he came back with some very detailed restrictions and regulations as to what needed to be done in this situation. And he alluded to something similar with a residential property. And I said, well, since you were able to provide this so quickly, why don't you send me the same information for residential properties, which he did, and also some information about multi-tenant residential buildings, which all have very unique laws, essentially, that we are required to follow. I'm glad I asked that question because a number of those regulations and timelines and processes and stipulations are not included in our ordinances. So I have asked Nicole to coordinate a lot of that information and prepare something we can share with the attorney. I want to be sure that we have a process that's consistent with state regulations. By the way, we looked at a number of our neighboring communities and their ordinances are not compliant either with these state laws. So we may be the forerunners here, but collections are still going on in the meantime, but there'll be more to come on water collections and ordinances to be sure that we are compliant with the state law. I don't know how much time it will take for the attorney, but that's why I asked Nicole to try and pull together a lot of that information first. We have the ordinances to look after, and then I also want a documented policy as to how we'll address them. I think we made some progress on that already, even before this issue came up with the ordinances, so more to come on that. I have an item on the agenda regarding Protect My Town petition drive. I'm sure the board members and likely some residents who are here in the audience have heard of it or read in the news about Governor Rauner's turnaround agenda. And one of the components of that agenda, or one of the things that he is proposing, is a 50% cut in a fund that's called the Local Government Distributor Fund. And that is essentially municipality share of the income tax that the state collects. Last year, if the numbers I have are right, the state collected about $1.2 billion in income tax from residents. And he is proposing to essentially keep or cut $600 million of that fund out. That means to Midlothian, and I'm estimating this year we'll probably get between $1.5 and $1.6 million of income tax. So a 50% cut would be about an $800,000 hit to revenue in the village, which is fairly significant. A number of mayors and political organizations have been discussing this and trying to come up with some sort of, I guess, way to send a message to the governor and our representatives. It's actually started in DuPage County, but a number of mayors have banded together and created a website that's called protectmytown.com, which is a portal that explains a little bit about the impact of this decision if this were to pass. It also provides the ability for residents to go in and actually sign up to sign the petition, and it generates an email to the governor and to Senator Will Davis and Representative Napoleon Harris. And then it also sends you an email that says, please forward this to another 10 people so we can get the message out. I don't know that it's necessarily political in nature. I think there's some facts on there that are important for people to know. I didn't go and fact check all of them, but I like the idea that it's an easy way for people to participate and basically send a message that this isn't a good thing for municipalities in Illinois. Just a couple facts. This has already been endorsed by the Southwest Conference of Mayors. I also understand South Suburban Mayors and Managers has joined the bandwagon on this. A number of communities around, Alsop I think is the closest one, at least as of yesterday, they put something about this on their website, but I had asked Nicole to draft something and put a link on our website so that residents can see it and follow it to go sign the petition. I'll just read one blurb. There's, for those who are online, Phil Cadner had I won't call it lengthy, but I would say an informative article in the Southtown on the 27th. But Mayor, Palos Hills Mayor Bennett is the president of the Southwest Conference of Mayors, one of the groups that has joined us. And he said, we want the public to help us let our state legislators and governor know that this is not the way to solve the state's budget crisis. What he wants to do is create a financial crisis at the local government level. The state, they may have to make cuts just as we have done year after year to make sure our budgets are balanced. So I would to, as I said, ask Nicole to put something on the website. Hopefully we can all share this information with people and ask them if they are in agreement to go on and sign it. I did have one other update in that, or two others, I'm sorry. One is last week I spoke with two Boy Scouts. I was approached with two Boy Scouts, Midlothian residents, who are seeking their Eagle Scout badges. And they approached me with a project they had in mind. They were still waiting for approval from the Boy Scouts, but they wanted to talk to the village before proceeding to see if the village would be open to this. They would like to arrange, construct, coordinate the replacement of the fence along Central Park Avenue from 149th Street to 151st, which is in pretty sad condition. I only have one copy, but there's 5 pictures I'll pass around for people to see. I'm not an Eagle Scout. I wasn't an Eagle Scout or a Boy Scout, but I know there's a lot of steps involved in planning and obtaining materials and all sorts of things like that. So this would be a no-cost project for the village. I happen to call Public Works just to be sure we actually own this fence or were responsible for it. And it's when Joe was on vacation, but Ty assured me, to the best of his knowledge, that we owned it. And he didn't think it would be a problem. So I wanted to see if the board had any thoughts about that or concerns.
Is that one boy doing this?
It's 2. And that's the, because again, I'm not familiar with how the whole Eagle Scout thing works, I thought that they had to do their own, so.
Yeah, yes, usually you have to do.
This may end up being just one of their projects, but they were hesitant to go talk to their scout leader about this until they got the okay from the village. So I talked to Ty last week, but I did not close the loop with these 2 young men until I heard from the board if they were okay.
To get the Eagle badge, they have to recruit people, raise the money, supervise the project, not do the project, with workers that they've recruited, and they have a sign up. So, and it's tough to try and do it as a dual role for them, but the troop would have to sign off on it together. So.
It would be like when Mike Sicharski did Freedom Hall,
Yes.
same process.
Yep.
And we actually have another one waiting in the wings to do the
9/11 being.
the 9/11 meeting, right?
Okay. No one has any objections? Okay. I'll keep posted on that. And then Helen, you mentioned the property on 151st and Kilpatrick. I've been hounding my mother about the title search. Apparently, there's actually some issues with that property. They have had to ask the county for a copy of an actual deed from 1929, which they were having trouble locating. There was a mortgage on the property and it was foreclosed 2 or 3 years ago. And it appears there's different, not really sure how this happens because I don't understand a lot of the workings with title and transfers, but it appears that a subsequent transfer, subsequent since 1929, gave a portion of that property to the property owner along 151st Street, but not the entire parcel. So they really do have to go back, as I understand, to this 1929 deed and trace everyone forward. So she's working on it. There's someone at its attorney's title guaranteed is working on it, and I'll keep you posted. I just talked to her this afternoon about it.
So we can get her to clean up her spot, right? The one who has the little parcel on 151st?
But where the water comes underneath the street?
You were saying that part of that at some point was given
Yeah.
to someone on 150?
We just don't know which one there though, right? Because there's, on the Sidwell map, there's 7 or 8 properties that could potentially line up to that 7 or 8 pins.
Okay,
Because those are long and narrow versus the parcel in question is actually like kind of a square with no frontage anywhere. So I will have that too. On the map, it will mark who that went to. And you're right, to the extent somebody does own some of that property, I think we could approach some.
because if it is a mess, she'll probably just give it back.
Perhaps,
It's gonna cost a lot to clean that.
yeah. So more to come, but that's still,
Interesting.
it's not forgotten. And that's all I have tonight.
Okay, thank you. Under my business, I sent you the documentation. We went out to bid for the installation of fire hydrants from the Senator Harris grant. And myself and Jeff Koza, along with Joe Sperry, are recommending the low bid be given, or we award the installation of the fire hydrants to the low bid to Alstruda Cartage Construction out of Alsip at $20,750. And I'd be looking for a motion to approve them to get the bid, so we can start the installation of the fire hydrants.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Discussion?
The money for this is where?
This is from the Harris grant.
Right,
It's the $60,000.
right.
We've already received 15 of it, and I submitted the quarterly report for the purchase of the fire hydrants. That check is being sent. That was $19,940. So that check's on the way. They're working with us very quickly, so I would like to get these installed as soon as possible. They're just sitting around collecting dust right now.
And we're gonna be able to get 2
Well,
extra.
I'm going to ask
hydrants?
next week for a change order to this because we'll be able to afford with the grant. I checked with the grant administrator, and we can continue to use the funds in the grant as long as it's for fire hydrants. And this company has said they would purchase and install additional fire hydrants if we had extra money, because they did come in quite low, for $3,995 apiece. And Jeff and Joe both believe that would get us 2 additional and still leave us enough money for the restoration around the fire hydrants. So I'm going to ask for that recommendation next week to do a change order. But we can
That
start
money can be used for the restoration for the property around.
around the fire hydrants, correct. But he doesn't think he's going to need that much. Because it actually, with the price of the fire hydrants and the installation, we would have $15,310 left out of the grant.
Right.
And so they're recommending that we get 2 additional at $7,990. That would still leave us $7,320 for restoration around. So if we need sod or concrete or whatever we have to do, a curb gets cut up to install, we'll have the money to be able to restore.
Gotcha.
Okay, can I have a first and a second roll call?
Trustee Gillis,
Aye.
trustee Killily,
Aye.
trustee Kreis,
Aye.
trustee LaRue,
Aye.
trustee Maskell,
Aye.
trustee Scibone.
Aye.
I'd be looking for a motion to approve the landscaping service from the low quote from Midlothian. Joe had sent us an email about a week and a half ago, giving all the quotes we had received, broken down into village, metro, and housing, the vacant houses. He's not recommending that we take the vacant house. I think we're still looking for prices on those, but I would like to get the approval for the village and the metro grass cutting so we can get the grass cut.
I'll make that motion.
I will second.
Any discussion?
And just to confirm, it's gonna be $2,400 a month, May through October, and a good portion of that is gonna be reimbursed from the Metro Fund.
Right.
And that is even less than we paid. They were charging $3,030 a month when we had them back in 2013. Okay, and our landscaping is looking pretty pathetic, so.
And they will be on Saturday, this is approved.
Roll call?
Trustee LaRue,
Aye.
trustee Maskell,
Aye.
trustee Gillis,
Aye.
trustee Killily,
Aye.
trustee Kreis,
Aye.
trustee Scibone.
Aye.
I'd be looking for the approval of a modification of the redevelopment agreement with Design Build Store LLC. This is the property at 147th and Lawndale, so that they can start construction and start pulling the permits. This is, you'll remember, this is where it's going to be built lot line to lot line, basically in the existing section it already is. They're just gonna put up a brand new building where the old section is.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
I'll second.
Okay.
Discussion?
What was the modification?
That we're going to let them build lot line to lot line,
The way it was before.
the way it's patterned now.
Correct, but you're saying the original RDA didn't say that?
It said, it was
This
kind
original
of
RDA.
vague, it said it would honor everything that Brigham was
Right.
given. This now gives it to Design LLC, Design Bill LLC. And it's in theirs now, so it's not questionable.
Gotcha.
Got a first and second roll call?
Trustee Gillis.
Aye.
Trustee Maskell.
Aye.
Trustee Killily.
Aye.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Trustee LaRue.
Aye.
Trustee Chivoni.
Aye.
Okay, next on the agenda, I have Chief Hotwagner had submitted, we're having problems with the middle bay door and the overhead garage. The garage door opener is from the 1960s, and it is no longer holding the door all the way in its up position, and we run the risk, if we're not really careful, we could take off the top of a fire engine or an ambulance air conditioner. So he went out and he got quotes, and he's recommending that we approve the low bid from overhead doors to replace. It would be $1,870 to replace the new garage door opener in Firehouse 1.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
I got a question though.
Okay. I have a first and second discussion.
What's the warranty? I mean, is it warranty or
The new one?
for their work and the new stuff?
Yeah, Joe Sperry sent overhead doors, which we always deal with,
Mhm.
and we gave us a quote to fix it before, and it was high. So we had another company come out and found out that they wanted extra $500 more than this one. What happened is then the gear is broken. There's like 2 teeth on the gear. So what happens is it goes down, it skips gears, and the garage door don't stop, it don't open, don't close all the way.
Right.
So the new opener is state of the art, I guess, what they have to do with the double eyes on there and all that stuff.
Right.
And warranty for whatever they give on the warranty 1 year on parts.
I have a copy of it here if you'd like to see it.
Oh, you guys are there. I really, the only part I had in it was take you guys through and show them Joe pretty much everything. It's our door. Yeah,
They're just replacing the opener.
just the opener, right? There was talks where Joe was talking about, they got so many openers from the old dealerships that they use in public works, but they weren't very keen to the idea of Andy installing them because they didn't really know much about them. No one does. And being at the firehouse with the apparatus, taking a chance of falling on something or not coming up all the way, they would just replace it with a new one.
Okay. You're okay? Roll call?
Trustee LaRue.
Aye.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Trustee Gillis.
Aye.
Trustee Killily.
Aye.
Trustee Maskell.
Aye.
Trustee Chivoni.
Aye.
Next on the agenda, I got the approval of the low quote for modifying the prisoner's cells. We had, actually, Trustee LaRue had brought this up a couple of weeks ago. We need to modify the cells because of a hanging possibility issue. Chief Kaufman gave me the low quote, and I'm just looking at the name of the company. It's Great Lakes Mechanical Services. Might want to call them while they're already out here doing this to weld over there, if this gets approved this evening. But for $2,126.56, they'll come in and fabricate and weld, so the hanging hazard will be gone, or at least rectified immensely. And I think this is something we should address sooner than later, because we don't need a tragedy like that in our police station.
We are responsible for our guests at all times, so.
Correct.
And Chief Kaufman's been working diligently with Markham to alleviate some of our holding time, but we still have holding time, and it needs to be corrected immediately. It's more, it turned out to be a lot more than the original person thought it would be, which, well, you can take over.
That was pretty much why I said, let's wait until I actually meet with this guy, because the figures that originally came in was without them even coming out. They were talking with Joe for Public Works about some other jobs, and it was mentioned, so he kind of gave it in ballpark. And once he came out and realized how much, work was involved, that's when the price came in, and that's why I thought it was, going to be, I didn't expect it to be as low as it was when we talked last time, because there is quite a bit of work. It's going to take some amount of time to do all 3 doors. Actually 4, 3 will be more work than the other.
And it's the same company that's gonna do the welding and the brakes.
Right. So,
They were recommended by Public Works. So I'll make that motion.
Second.
Roll call? We've already had the discussion part of it.
Trustee LaRue.
Aye.
Trustee Chevalier.
Aye.
Trustee Gillis.
Aye.
Trustee Killilee.
Aye.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Trustee Masko.
Aye.
I'd be looking for a motion to approve the building department March 2015 report. Trustee Kreis had made a note of correction, and it was taken care of by the building department. I'd be looking for a motion just so I can get it approved.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Masko.
Aye.
Trustee LaRue.
Aye.
Trustee Gillis.
Aye.
Trustee Killilee.
Aye.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Trustee Chevalier.
Aye.
I also included in your packet this week a letter from Chief Wagner asking that we authorize to direct the Fire and Police Commission to the eligible two full-time top applicants for a condition of employment because of Tim Forrest retiring and the resignation of Scott Taylor, and with Kucharski, firefighter Kucharski still being off and not knowing when he's going to return, we run short-handed, and now with summer being here, vacations are high in gear, and we'll be having a lot of overtime if we do not address this. So I've been looking for a motion to approve sending out the letters for employment for the 2 firefighters.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Yeah. Any discussion?
I actually had called Trustee Gillis about this, and he said that you're pretty down, what, you'd be at minimum?
We're in them now, which I'm not, knowing when he's coming back for sure, we're gonna start doing vacation time, not overtime.
Yeah, we've already approved a couple of days of overtime recently, being short-handed. But if, I would just like to mention that if things go correctly, and the number 1 and number 2 personnel that are on this would actually be a benefit to the village, because they are currently 2 part-time firefighters, so it would save us some additional funding of training and equipment, because we wouldn't have to put them on 8-hour days, working 40-hour work weeks. We could probably put them right on shift, so it would save us quite a bit of time. But they still have quite a bit of background and medical and everything else to pass, so let's hope everything goes well.
And they're both paramedics.
Correct.
Roll call?
Trustee Gillis.
Aye.
Trustee Chevalier.
Aye.
Trustee Killilee.
Aye.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Trustee LaRue.
Aye.
Trustee Masko.
Aye.
The last thing I have this evening is I'm going to appoint Ryan Kaman and Ed Olmos to the to the police pension board. You don't need them. Their term expires in the end of May, so I was asked by Deputy Chief Delaney to reappoint, so I am making those appointments this evening.
Could I make a motion that we table this one until we have a chance to discuss?
Sure.
I'll second.
I just wanted a better understanding of the commitment that, given we're still waiting for some other things.
Okay.
So,
Well, because they're already both trained, that's why they thought it would be easier to keep both of them. So, okay, no problem.
Do we need to take a roll call on table?
Yeah, on the table we do.
Okay. Trustee Masko.
Aye.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Trustee Gillis.
Aye.
Trustee Killily.
Aye.
Trustee LaRue.
Aye.
Trustee Schiavone.
Aye.
Okay, Chief, Clerk Colstead, do you have anything this evening?
One thing, we're getting into the season. I just got the first block party request. It's for Lisa Smith, 14623 Holman, for a block party on June the 20th, or July the 25th from 2 p.m. to 11 p.m. For 146th and Holman Avenue for the neighbors.
Okay. Alrighty. I'd be looking for a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel, personnel, salaries, and potential employment and negotiations.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Trustee Gillis.
Aye.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Trustee Killily.
Aye.
Trustee LaRue.
Aye.
Trustee Masko.
Aye.
Trustee Schiavone.
Aye.
There will not be, I'll wait till next week to appoint these guys then, since it's been tabled, so there will not be any business after close.